Hey friends, this is Karen from Blue Rooster Farm, and today we are going to have a busy day. We're going to start off by getting supper going so that it can just keep warm in the crock pot. Then we're going to head into the sewing room and we are going to make a fun fall quilt block. So if you want to see what we're making for supper and what quilt block we're making, stick around. Well, I'm so happy that you decided to stick around. Today we're going to start off this video with making sausage soup. And this is a favorite of our families, not only because it's really delicious, but because it's such a simple soup to make, and you can add any kind of add-ons you like or make it very, very simple. And I believe I got this recipe from my sister probably 20-something years ago, and since then we make it all the time. And in fact, when the boys were young, the word soup, this was when they were kindergarten and preschool, the word soup did not appeal to them at all. They did not have any interest in eating soup. And so we would call it sausage yum yum, and they loved it. So if they would ask me what I'm making for dinner, I would say, oh, we're having sausage yum yum. And they were just so excited because they thought it was really good since the name said yum yum. But this is a yummy soup. So after we make this soup, I'm just going to put it in the crock pot or my Instapot and keep it on low and just let it simmer for the rest of the day while I'm in the sewing room sewing. I am going to share with you how to make a really cute oak leaf quilt block, and it will go perfect with our acorn block that we made a couple of weeks ago. And so I'm really excited to share that one with you. If you're here only for the quilt block, feel free to skip on ahead, fast forward, or just jump to that middle somewhere where the quilting starts, and that would be fine. But you're certainly going to miss a really good soup that is delicious, it's easy, and it's really a healthy soup too. So let's get started making the soup. I have my Instapot out just because it's easy to fry up and saute all of the ingredients and then add my liquid and then just close it up and use it as a slow cooker. So as the name implies, we have sausage in this soup. And so this is about a pound of sausage. You can use any kind of sausage. You can use pork sausage, chicken sausage, turkey sausage, whatever you like. We know that beef is getting to be ridiculously priced in the grocery stores, and it's only going to continue to go up. And so anytime we can find substitutes or different kinds of food dishes that are really good and nutritious and easy to make, it's nice to have. Ground beef, is triple the price probably of pork. And I really enjoy getting pork that is just like pork butt and grinding my own pork and adding my own seasoning, because then ground pork and ground sausage is dirt cheap. So if you haven't looked into those options, those are great options if you're trying to stretch your dollar. So I've got my sausage in here. I'm gonna get it started, and let me just turn it on to saute. And then I'm gonna also, before it starts going, add some onions. And I just chopped up one of our large onions. And here is an optional ingredient. You don't have to have this. There are only 3 ingredients that are required to make this soup, and I'll tell you those here in a minute. I'm also gonna throw in some red sweet pepper. It's a red bell pepper, and it's just one big one that came from our garden. And I'm gonna throw that in. That's an optional ingredient. I am going to put some garlic in, but I'm gonna wait just a little bit because I don't wanna overcook my garlic. And I've also got some finely cut carrots, and they're just in little square chunks, very tiny. And these are in here not only for good flavor, but they are nutritious. And I always try to put as many vegetables as I can in my soups without changing the flavor of the soup and making it more healthy. So all three of those, onions, peppers, and carrots, are optional ingredients. The sausage is the only one so far that you do need to have for sausage soup. So I'm just gonna let this start sauteing. And when it's all sauteed, I'm gonna bring you back and I'll show you what it looks like. So it's been about 10 minutes and it looks like my pork is browned. My vegetables in there are softened. The onions are translucent. So I'm going to put in some garlic. And again, this is an optional ingredient. It does add some nice flavor. And I'm just using some of our garlic. We had a great crop this year. I don't remember if I shared the video of us harvesting it. I know I've had so much, I have so many videos that I've made, but I just don't have time to get them edited. And then, of course, I like to try to get 2 out a week, and it seems like I've got other videos that take priority. So it came out really good, the garlic did, and we have a nice size basket of it, and this is some of it. We are definitely going to be trying it and doing the garlic planting again this next year if I remember to get the garlic ordered here soon. But it is growing it by planting it in November is the way to go, and it was an easy crop to grow. So let's see here. This is what it looks like now. And I just added the garlic now because garlic tends to brown up and get a bitter taste if you burn it. So I just added it now, and it will have a chance to soften up in these next few minutes. Now, the ingredient that is necessary besides the sausage in this recipe is rotel. Now, rotel is a tomato pepper sauce, or it comes in a can. And rotel is actually, I think, just a brand name. But it comes in mild, hot, and then I think a medium. And I make my own, and I have a video that I made this last year. I really need to make some this year, and so I'll probably be making some because we still have our tomatoes and peppers doing really well in the garden, even though it's the middle of September, and we had gotten so dry for a while. Finally, in these last 2 days, we had some nice rain. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough to get things kind of growing again. But everything in the garden has been growing fine because it's been mulched. So I'm gonna have to make some more rotel. But my rotel is pretty spicy, and it all depends on the peppers that you use, how spicy it is. But you do need a can of rotel, and you can buy that at your grocery store. And so I'm putting 1 can of rotel in there. And that's, I think, what makes it really good. The third ingredient that you have to have is chicken broth. Now you could also use chicken bouillon or stock, whatever you have. And this is just some chicken broth that I had panned up last year. And I'm gonna start off with 1 quart, which is 1 jar. And then if I feel like once I get my other vegetables and stuff in, I need more, I'll add another one. So the necessary ingredients for making sausage soup is just chicken stock, rotel, and sausage. And that makes a delicious soup, especially if you have a cold or anything like that, because all of that heat, and it doesn't have to even be hot heat, all of that seasoning and the little bit of heat really helps to get your sinuses going and helps you to get all of that out of there. But there is the basic ingredients, and we're just adding some things that we like to make it even more healthy and a little bit more hearty. So we've added the onions, the peppers, and the carrots. Now we're gonna add some beans. Now I usually just use whichever beans I have on hand, and if we don't have any on hand, I don't add any. I just finished up canning a whole bunch of beans for the winter, and this I'm using kidney beans, but I canned up kidney, black beans, pinto beans, and Great Northern beans. Those are beans that we like to use in different things. And so we've got a large stock of beans now on the shelf, which I'm glad to have. We go through a lot of black beans with our Mexican food. We like those. And then of course the pinto and the kidney are great for chilies, and the Great Northern are great for chicken chilies or pasta salads, things like that. So those are the kind that we like. So now we have a can of kidney beans. And another thing that I really like in this soup, and that I think my boys have always liked in this soup, is I always add some hominy. Now, if you don't have hominy and you want to add something similar, you could add corn. But hominy is just such a fun, and I love hominy. I'm using the golden hominy. If I had the white hominy, I would use a can of both, just because it looks pretty in the soup. But I'm gonna use a can of golden hominy, and I'm gonna keep the liquid. That way it'll add it to our broth that's in here. So right now, that is everything added. And I'm gonna bring the camera down here and let you peek in the pot here. And there, isn't that pretty? Doesn't that look delicious? We've got yellow, orange, red, green, all of those beautiful colors in there, and it's such a delicious and healthy soup. You could definitely put rice in here, or barley, or, you know, if you want, noodles would be fine too. We find we like it just like that, and a lot of times we'll put, if not crackers, tortillas, corn tortilla chips, and we'll use that as a side to go along with this. But it is delicious. And remember, after you've got it cooked, taste it to see if you need more salt, more pepper. It all depends on whether the vegetables and the broths had salt in them and what the flavor of your sausage was. But this is all set, and it's ready to be put or just turned on to a low setting on the crock pot and just let it simmer for the next several hours while I go into the sewing room and get some sewing done. So I hope you join me there. Today we are going to be making this really cute 10-inch oak leaf, and it's one that I designed, and I thought it would go really well with those acorns that we also made a couple weeks ago in one of my videos. And I'll put a link to the acorn video right here, and it'll be in the description box below. But this leaf measures 10 inches when it's finished. Right now it's 10.5, but once it's placed into a project or a quilt, it will measure 10.5 inches. And it's got big pieces. The pieces that are small are the little snowball corners or the stitch and flip corners. And really, there's nothing that needs to be matched up or anything like that, or there's no points that you have to have perfect. So really, this block is not a hard block to make either. And if you're off a little bit on your corners, it won't make any difference because the leaves are just a rounded shape. And of course, leaves in nature are never perfect either. So it's not a hard block to make, and I think a beginner could do this. So we also have in the description box below this pattern right here, and the only thing it is the cutting instructions and the layout. I don't have written instructions on how to place it together, so you'll just need to watch the video if you need to have that. But it's basic. It's a basic block to put together, and I'm going to walk you through that step by step. Now, if you're new to my patterns, you're going to see that there's a quantity of pieces that you need to cut, the size that they need to be cut in, and I also have a letter assigned to those cuts. That way you can label your cuts and make sure that you can keep all those cuts straight, because some of them are quite close in size. And that way when you're working, it's really easy to find the piece that you need. And if you're interested in having a copy of the PDF that has these tiles, these letter tiles on it, that might have been with the acorn block too. So I will link the video that has the tiles as well. And those are just free. And all you need to do is either copy them on paper and just use them and throw them away, copy them on cardboard, or do like I do, copy them on cardboard and laminate, and they last forever. So now that we have our pattern, and I've already got mine all cut out, before we start though, I want to say that this fabric, if you're interested, is from the Acorn Hollow collection by Basic Gray and Moda, and it's a real fun fall palette. There's little animals, there's forest things, there's pretty pink and teal and dark colors. It's just a really pretty, bright and cheery fall fabric. And I use this for my acorn block that I made last time because I'm making several using my charm pack. And then I have purchased fat quarters of different colors to make some more things because I'm turning all of this into some projects that I'm hoping to share with you. But so right now, this is from a fat quarter, but I have made a leaf and I did use a 10-inch square, but you have to lay it out just right. And I didn't write down how I did that, but if you take a piece of paper and divided it into 10 squares by 10 squares and then lay out your cuts, you can figure out how to cut these pieces from a 10-inch square. They will work. Now let's take a look at our pattern right here, and I can bring you down a little closer. When we assemble this, we are going to be assembling it in sections. So I'm going to be assembling all of this right here in a section. So I'll first do this part. Then I'll probably do this part at the same time because these two are the same thing, just a mirror image. And then I'll do this part, put them all together, and I'll have that whole section. Then I'm going to do this middle section right here with the 2 C pieces. Then I will do this bottom section down here. And then I'll put the 3 sections together. Oh, once I do this section here, I'll add my H's. So we just kind of break it down into a way that we can do all straight stitching and put everything together. And so that's how we're going to do it. So to start with, we're going to be doing this section here and this section here. And we'll start with the B cut. And then this also has, and these are kind of small, so I think you can read them okay, but they're K, L, and M. So let's get our B's. And we have our B's right here, and we have K, L, and M. Now there are a lot of K's. We just need 2. There are just 2 L's. And then we have 2 M's. So now we need to lay out these blocks. So first of all, you need to notice that these are not squares. These are rectangles, and we need to place them so the long length is going this way. So let's make sure we start off with them in the right direction. As you can see up here, this is what we have. Okay, then we are going to place M, which is the bigger square, and it goes on those outside lower corners. We've got an L, which is the smallest piece. Whoops, I've got the wrong one here. These are the M's. I wasn't looking carefully. Those are our largest pieces. Then we're going to take our L's, which are the smallest pieces, and they go here. And then we're going to take our K's, which is the middle size piece, and they go here. Now all of these can be attached at the same time. So if you want, you could very easily, since you're working with small blocks, just put a dab of glue in each corner. And I'm just going to do it on this one. I normally with these do not have to add pins or glue, but anyone just starting to sew or that struggles with keeping their fabric in line when they're sewing, this is a great option. And all I'm doing is putting it in the corner that's going to be cut off, because these are those stitch and flip pieces or snowball corners, and those corners get cut off, they're waste. So once you're sure that you've got all of your lines lined up, and sometimes my cuts aren't exact, so this one's a little off, but that's just my cut. You can take this to the iron, and actually it feels like it's on there pretty good, but you can take it to the iron and you can iron it, and then it's going to be down right now and it's not going to be slipping around as you're sewing. Then you can take a straight line and we can draw those sewing lines that we're going to be doing. And these are just diagonal lines that are going to, and see that the glue is right here. So when we cut this, it's going to come off. These are just diagonal lines that are going to snowball these corners. And you go from corner to corner. And with the really small blocks, you want to be pretty accurate. But again, on this block in particular, it's okay if it's not perfect. There's nothing lining up to piece it with after you get them made. So this one is ready to sew. I've already got, I've got the seam tape, the diagonal seam tape on the bed of my sewing machine, and so when I go through, I can easily just feed it through without doing the marking or the gluing. And that is just because I've had lots of practice. I used to have to do this too, so don't worry if you have to do this. This is okay. This makes it really exact. So what I would do, and what I'm going to do, is I'm going to start over here on M, and I'm going to sew here, lift up my presser foot, sew here, lift up my presser foot, and sew here, lift up my presser foot. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'll start with M over here, but this time I'm going to go this way, because do you see how these are opposites? These are mirror images. I'm going to go here to here, here to here, and here to here, and then I'll finally cut my thread. That just makes it so much easier, and it's kind of like chain piecing, only you're using the same block. But I'm going to get those sewn, and then I'll bring you right back. And we have those pieces done. I trimmed the back corners and left 1/4 inch, and I pressed all of the seams to the outside, just toward those corners. Okay, and so there we have our first 2 pieces, and this is the way they are supposed to set. Now let's put G on both sides. So just make sure these are sitting the right direction before you add your piece G. And here's what we're doing right here. Here's our pieces that we're working on. So on this one right here, make sure you have the biggest one on the outside, and then of course the smallest one at the top, and then the middle one at the top middle. Then these go right here. And now all I'm going to do is take this and I am going to even it up. Now, if for some reason it's not the same, just like I always say, go ahead and match up your corners. You can stretch it a little bit. Let's start with this one. Let's pin this one right here. And then this one right here is kind of wonky, which, like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect for this one, for this block. And I'm just stretching it over so those corners meet and putting a pin. And if you have one side that's looser than the other, that will go down toward your feed dogs. So I'm just going to feed this through, and I'm going to have this side go on the feed dogs just because there's no seams to flip. It's all flat fabric. If it were the loose, or if it were the tight end and this was the loose end, I would be doing it that way. So I'm going to do this to both of them, and I'll be right back. And there we have those two pieces. I ended up pressing them toward just the fabric G because there's no seams there and it will lay nice and flat. So we have that. Now, before we can add anything else to this, we do need to make, well, actually, we can go ahead and add F. Do you see how F is the same length? Let's go ahead and add F to both of those. And F is just a piece that should fit just right above there. And so with right sides together, we're going to do the same thing. And again, make sure you have the right blocks, because you could very easily have this, but of course your oak leaf would be going down, and we don't want the, whoops, find it right here, the oak leaf sections here to be going down. So always make sure you've got it turned the correct way. So now that we know that it's turned the correct way, let's do this. Let's do this. And the same thing as we did a while ago, match those corners. If you have anything that is, or if you have one piece of fabric that is looser than the other side, that goes toward the feed dogs. And we have those two pieces sewn on, and again, press toward that top F piece. There are no seams on that piece. Now we're going to go here and do this middle part right here. I think you can see that. And we need A and 2 Ks. And so according to that pattern, that is going to have the A with the rectangle going up and down like this, the long portion up and down, and then we have these two pieces. Now they should just be able to fit right across there. So again, you can glue them down in the top corners and then draw your lines, but I'm just gonna go to my sewing machine and draw, and so from this corner to this corner, and then this corner to this corner, and I'll be right back. And I have pressed them back and they covered those corners. And so now I just trim a 1/4 inch away from that seam. Okay. Now we have the pieces that we can put together and make this long strip right here. And this was that first section that we are going to be making right here. So we can just take this one, right sides together, match it up, then do the same thing after I sew this one on. Take this one, right sides together, match it up, sew a 1/4 inch, and I'll bring you right back. Okay, so I have both of them sewn on, and I wanted to show you, before I press, I take a look at which direction to press from. Now, both of these have lots of seams. This one has these two. This one has this one up here. And so there's quite a bit of bulk here, especially in this area right here. Now, I also look over here at this, and I determine that there's not going to be any matching seams down here. So it doesn't matter which direction I press it. So in order to get the flattest seam, and you could do it whichever way you wanted to, but if you want the flattest seam, this is the way I would do it, and I would press mine open. You could certainly press this way. It's quite bulky right here. You could press it this way. It's very bulky right here, but not as bad. This would be the second choice I think that I would make, but this right here is quite bulky in 2 places. So I'm going to go ahead and press mine open, and then we'll start our second section. So we've got that top section finished, and we'll just set it up here. Now let's work on these 2 pieces right here. These are the exact same piecing for both this block here and this block here, so we can make both of them at the same time. So it looks like we need C, N, N, K, K, so that means 4 Ks, 2 Ns, or 4 Ns and 2 Cs. So let me grab those. Okay, I've got those pieces right here. I still have some Ks left, so that's right here, but these are the only time I need N and C, so I'll go ahead and get rid of those tiles. We're gonna lay out our C pieces across, just like this, like we have in the picture. The ends go in the bottom two corners, just like this. And the K's go in the top two corners. And again, on this one, you can do them all at once. You can use your glue and you can draw your line. And that would be a diagonal line. So you'll have a line going this way, a line going this way, a line going this way, and a line going this way. Just the same as the lines on the pattern, okay? And if you need to glue the corners, that's fine. I'm going to take these to my sewing machine and sew them up, and I'll bring you right back. And here are all of my pieces. I folded them all back and they covered up those corners. Now, if they don't cover up the corners on this block specifically, if it covers enough of it, you're fine, as long as you can sew your 1/4 inch seam and everything without it going too far out. Again, these do not have to be perfect triangles because this is a leaf and there's nothing matching those seams. But now all I need to do is just trim off that back triangle, and again, a 1/4 inch away from that seam. And if you like to keep your half square triangles, you could have gone about a 1/2 of an inch from this seam right here and sewn right here, and then cut between those, and then you would have had a small 1/4 inch triangle right there. But these are too small for me, so I am just cutting them off. I know I repeat myself over and over again on some of these, but I do have a lot of new viewers, people who've never watched this video before, and maybe have very limited quilting experience. And so I want to make sure that they too have the information. And since I'm doing something right here, I might as well share some knowledge. Limited knowledge. All right, we've got those, and I just, again, I pressed toward the corners, okay? Nothing's matching as far as seams here. Now let's make sure we've got these laid right. This is the end. It's the biggest triangle or corner square. This one right in here needs to be flipped around, so we have our ends right here. So just make sure that that looks correct, and if it does, we just put them right sides together, and as you see, there are no matching seams, which makes this a nice, easy block. We don't have to worry about that. And I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch away from this edge. There we have our two pieces sewn together, and I did press open our seam because we had seams on both sides. So this is the way it's looking, and I know I've had a lot of people asking me, especially when I made the acorn block that I have on this pin cushion here, what my background fabric is. That is an Essex linen, and this is called flax, and it's the yarn dyed flax. I have the regular Essex linen flax, and it is just a little bit lighter, and it's also really pretty. It doesn't have as much texture to it, but it's very pretty as well. I do like to starch my Essex linen. It does help it hold its shape better when I'm stitching with it. And anytime I'm doing any small block, I starch all my fabrics ahead of time before I cut, and that makes a difference. So this is yarn dyed Essex linen flax. So let's see what we need to add now. We now need to add our H pieces. So here we have our 2 H pieces, and these are going to go right here, and we're going to go right sides together. And as I'm laying them together, I'm already noticing this little block right here is bigger than what I have here. And that can happen a lot of times when you have these triangles, because you can see this one's hanging over a little bit farther than what this block would have been, and that's okay. I could go in and trim that a little bit if I wanted to, but remember, this block, it's not a big deal. And so if I want to match the corners, and I am going to match this one right here because this one looks like it's even with that fabric, and I'm going to bring you down a little bit so you can see. This one seems to be pretty even with the fabric. We have a little bump here, but I'm going to match this corner. But when I get down to this bottom one here, I'm going to let my fabric square up that right there. It's square with this piece of fabric, which is the part of the fabric we need to make sure everything's lined up with. This triangle back here just hung over a little when I pressed it, I believe. Sometimes Essex linen can distort easily when I press it too. So I can easily trim that off, but I'm just going to let it hang just a little bit off. And now I have just a little bit looser on this side here, and I'll put that toward my feed dogs. So I'll get this one ready with a pin. And then I'll do the same thing over here. I'll pin these two together, and these two look like they fit much better. And then I will sew a 1/4 inch away from both edges. And there we have our blocks on, and I just pressed them out because there's no seams on that outside piece. And I'm going to show you right here. This is what I was talking about a while ago, and you see how that kind of shoots out? Well, if I lay my straight edge and I keep it straight with this piece right here, do you see how that piece right there is the only piece that's really hanging out? And I can just make it straight, and there we have it. So you don't, I mean, I didn't have to trim that off, but just to show you that that was what was causing that to hang over more a while ago. So now what we need to do is we could easily put these two together, since we have this piece and this piece done. Or we could put this piece together and then put all three of them together, but we've got these two done. Let's do this, that way we can see more of our progress. Okay, and nothing matches up on this either. So don't try to match any of those seams. I just make sure the edges match. And then mine are matching pretty well. I'll just put a pin here in the middle somewhere just to keep them together. And also this a 1/4 inch away from the edge. And we have those pieces sewn together, and again I just opened up that seam. So we are just about done. We've got one section left. So we're going to take our D block, and we have this one right here, and this time we have 4 Ks on this one, and so this is the end of our Ks. There are 12 K blocks in this leaf, and these are all 1 inch square pieces, so they're not big at all. And so we're just putting one in each corner. Some of these needed to be pressed a little bit. Let me press these two. That will help lay them more flat. Okay, so the same thing here. As you can see, we need to do a diagonal line on these squares right here to make our stitch and flip corners. And so I'm just going to run my sewing machine this way, pull some thread out, move it over here, this way, and then cut my thread. And there we have our piece. I went ahead and pressed it back, and my seam allowance is going toward the corners. Now we need the pieces I and I. And those are just going to go right here and here, and the same as always, we're just going to match up the edges and sew those a 1/4 inch away from the edge. And we have that piece finished. We have 3 pieces to go, J, E, and another J. And E goes in the middle. And the J's go on the outside, just like that. And of course, we're just going to put right sides together, 1/4 inch away, and then the same thing over here. Bring it back when it's done. And here we have this piece, and you could have pressed either way on this piece right here. And now we want to put the stem right here, and we just line up our outside edges and corners, and we are going to stitch a 1/4 inch away from the edge. And that piece is done. We are ready to add this section right here to our block, and we only are 1 seam away from finishing this block. It is a fun block to make, and it isn't hard at all. So again, match our corners, then sew a 1/4 inch away from the edge. And there is our finished block, and I think it came out so cute. It is 10.5 inches. Let me make sure here, make sure I've got mine cut right. Yep, 10.5 inches by 10.5 inches when it's not finished, but when it's in a project, it's going to be a 10-inch block. So I think it's going to be really, really pretty. And here is my other one, and I am going to be making some more, and I will probably be making some brown, some green, some maybe plaid. I don't know if I'll do the light colors or not. There's all sorts of neat colors. Ooh, that would be a pretty one, wouldn't it? But I'll be making several of these. Ooh, that'll be nice. I'll be making several of these, and I will be coming up with a pattern to do with several of these blocks that we are making for fall, and I think it's going to be a cute one, and I will be sharing what I come up with. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you are able to make this oak leaf block. After watching this video, don't forget the directions for the cutting are in the description box below. You just need to click on it and they will open up. You can either print them off, or you can just put them in your downloads, or just read it off your computer and then trash it. But it is a fun and really quite a quick sewing block to make. Again, I thank you so much for watching this video today, and if you enjoyed what you saw and you are not a subscriber, please consider subscribing. I would really appreciate that. We are almost to 25,000 viewers. I started my channel a 1.5 years ago, and I was hoping for just 10,000 about this time, and I have really exceeded my expectations thanks to all of my wonderful viewers. I have some of the nicest people, and I really appreciate all your kind comments. You don't know how much that means to me, and you're so thankful for these patterns, and that makes me want to make more for you. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a great week, and as always, I hope to see you back here soon. Bye-bye.